Alright y'all, so I am back with yet another glueless meltdown method. The more I grow and learn and know about frontals and ways to apply them, the more I get to share with you guys. So let's go ahead and just get started on this video. The hair I'm going to be using is this Indian body wave that was sent to me by Eullair hair. I hope I said that right. But I'm going to be using 3 bundles of Indian body wave in a frontal that they sent me. So thank you so much to them for sending me this hair and for sponsoring this video. So this method that I'm doing is going to be focusing more on the construction of the cap so that you can get a flawless glueless fit without the use of an elastic band or like wig clips or whatever. So I start off with the mesh dome cap on my head, and I'm going to be using a white eyeliner to do some tracing and measurements. The first thing that I'm going to do is kind of trace the outline of the top of my ear. This is going to help guide me in where to make my frontal start and stop. Next thing I'm going to do is draw a diagonal line from the edge of where I traced my ear, and this is going to help guide me on where I need to cut the frontal. It doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be exactly even. We're just doing this to help ensure a more seamless, glueless fit. Next thing you want to do is take your frontal and center it on your head so you can do some measurements. I have mine braided so that the hair doesn't get in the way. I recommend you doing the same thing as well. So once you have the frontal centered on your head and kind of positioned where you want it to lay, you're going to feel around for the middle of the frontal in the back, and then you're going to mark it with your white liner or Sharpie or whatever you're using. And you'll see me go back and forth between using my own head and using the mannequin head. But as far as when I'm marking and doing measurements, I'm always going to use my own head, because when it comes to a glueless install, you're going to have a more flawless fit, because there's nothing more accurate than your own head for making your wig. So I'm going to be using a mannequin head for this part, because obviously I cannot place pins in my own head. So I'm going to pin down the frontal at the marks that I made. So for the center, I'm going to pin it down at that mark that I just made. And then for the sides, I'm going to pin it down at the ear line that I made. So once you've got it pinned down, the only thing you're going to do is just trace the back of the frontal, because all this is doing is helping you know where you're going to sew down the frontal, but this is also going to help you determine where your track should stop when you are making your wig. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on this next part, because I already have a detailed video about how I make my wigs, but bruh, my lines always end up crooked when I am recording them. Like, I guess it's just because I'm trying to stay at the angle of the camera. But anyway, so after you get your tracks sewn down, this is what it should look like. You want to sew your tracks before your frontal. So now I'm going to place the frontal back on my head, but this time I'm going to bobby pin it down so that it stays put in place while I make some markings on the frontal. For this step, you want to line up the back of the frontal with the start of the tracks, basically like the way you're going to sew it. And then you are going to mark on the frontal where your ear line stops. And you're doing this because that way you know where to stop sewing your frontal. So when sewing down your frontal, remember a couple of things. You're only going to sew down the back first, not the sides. You always want to sew by hand, and I also recommend that you do not use a mannequin head, because as you can see with the mannequin head, my measurements are off. The lines don't line up, but if I place it on my own head, the lines add up perfectly. So recap, you are going to sew the back of the frontal from point to point. You are then going to cut off the excess lace and sew down the sides. The reason why I did not show you on camera the way that I sewed it is because, remember, I sewed this in my lap by hand, and it was very difficult to catch that angle on camera. If I would have sewn it on the mannequin head, I would have been able to show you. But your wig should look like so. I've already customized, plucked, bleached, layered, added curls, all of that, yada yada. I have videos on how I do most of that I will link down below. I also colored this hair with box dye and bleach, so that's why it's a different color. So now we are going to get in applying our wig. As you can see, it has no clips on the inside and there is no elastic band. So I'm going to place my wig on from front to back, brush out the curls, get it settled in exactly where I want it positioned on my forehead, and then we are going to kind of start the melting process. So as you can see, the ear flaps are not completely secure, but you still do not have to use any adhesive unless that just makes you super uncomfortable. I haven't figured out a method to keep the ear flaps totally secure, but trust me, I'm working on it, and when I do figure it out, I will share. So the mousse I'm going to be using is this Design Essentials. To let y'all in on one of my little secrets, I like to add a little setting lotion to my mousse, and that just helps the melting process just look even more flawless. This part of the video is sped up because I'm not going to get into all these details, but you're going to see me applying the mousse all over the hairline of the wig, and just kind of perfecting the hairline the way I want to. I ended up cutting off some more lace around the ear area just because I didn't like the way it looked, and then you are going to see me tie it down so it has time to set into my skin and just get that flawless meltdown. I should have definitely used a smaller scarf or folded this one a little bit better, but this was the closest one to me. So I'm going to keep this tied down. I recommend at least 30 minutes, but probably the longer the better. And I left this on while I did my makeup. I also refreshed some of the curls and made sure that it looked exactly the way I wanted to. So when you untie it, your meltdown should look just bomb. Obviously, there's some lines on my forehead from where I tied my scarf like super tight. I mean, like headache tight. But get into these results, okay? Now, it doesn't look perfect, but it looks damn good. Obviously, the better quality of your lace, the better quality your meltdown will be, the less likely you are to be able to see any grids or holes in your lace. It's also very important that your lace matches your skin tone, so make sure you are bleaching and tinting accordingly. And as you can see, it slides right off, no adhesive. And that's pretty much it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time.